Hello everyone. Um, you're welcome to this lecture. Still on the introduction to ecology. I'll continue from where I stopped the last time. So, if you remember, I told you that organisms need two fundamental things to survive: energy and some materials. So another fundamental process that life on Earth depends on for survival, that organisms on Earth depend on for survival, is the matters or materials. So the recycling of those matters, because since they cannot be manufactured, they had to be recycled. That is, they go on and come back. That's what we mean by recycle, required by organisms through the earth. Such matters that we are going to consider in this lecture are nitrogen, carbon, sulfur, phosphorus, and water. Those materials are key, they are very important to life. I will start with nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen cycle is a biochemical process through which nitrogen is converted into many forms, consecutively passing through the environment. What we are trying to say there is that nitrogen cycle is a process, a biological process, whereby nitrogen moves in different compounds or different forms in the environment to the organisms. And you can see, looking on the screen, you can see a cycle that is showing the movement of nitrogen in different forms. Now, if we start from here, nitrogen in the atmosphere. Nitrogen in the atmosphere are usually being fixed by some bacteria that are referred to as nitrogen fixing bacteria. These bacteria are present at the nodules of some plants that are referred to as legumes. So these bacteria are present at the root nodules of this leguminous plant. So the bacteria are able to fix the atmospheric nitrogen and convert it to nitrate so that plants can absorb. So when plants absorb it, it returns back to the soil in form of maybe their ammonia when they die, or maybe waste products. And this ammonia, by some other set of bacteria that are referred to as nitrifying bacteria, will be converted to nitrates. In another way, plants can absorb this. When other plants absorb this, sometimes it gets into the animals when animals feed upon them, and when these animals, when they die and decompose, or maybe their excretory products goes into the soil, it goes into the soil in form of ammonium compounds, and that is why we refer to that, when it decomposes, we refer to that as ammonification. And so the ammonium in that side, from that side, are also converted to nitrites. Now, looking at this side, when lightning occurs during the rain, we have the fixation of nitrogen, which is present in the atmosphere, being fixed, that is being converted into nitrite, which can also be assimilated by plants. Like I told you the other time, can be assimilated by plants from the soil, and when they are assimilated by plants from the soil, the plant gets this nitrogen, and when animals feed on this plants, the nitrogen gets into the animals, and when animals die, or through their, when they die and decay, or maybe their excretory products, it comes back as a process that is referred to as ammonification. Then you have ammonia, then come back here, you have ammonia being converted to nitrite by nitrifying bacteria, and this nitrite by nitrifying bacteria will be converted again to nitrate, and the nitrate could be absorbed by plants, or we go back to the atmosphere by the process of denitrification by the nitrifying bacteria. So if you look at it, you see that nitrogen is moving in the environment in different forms in the biosphere, gets to the living organisms and move in the environment. Then you have the next one, which is referred to as a sulfur cycle. Sulfur cycle is a biochemical cycle that consists of various processes whereby you have sulfur and its compound moving in the environment. If you see here, you will see sulfur moving in the environment, either moving at sulfate or moving as a sulfite. If we start from the presence of a sulfite or sulfites in the atmosphere, you can see in here that it say that yes, it can go back into the, either when rain falls, it goes back as acid rain, that is, it dissolves in the rain and flows into, into the waters, that is either lakes, streams and the rest. Then sometimes if we fertilize our plants also, when you have runoffs, that is when rain falls, some will not be absorbed, some will not dissolve in the soil, and so these ones will run off during when you have rain into these bodies of water, or when you have leaching taking place. Then in another way, plants can even take up this sulfur, and when plants take up this sulfur and animals come to feed upon them, the sulfur will go inside the animals. And when animals or plants, when they die, their remains or waste go back into the soil. There you have organic sulfur. After decomposition, you have this sulfur being changed or form something we refer to as a fossils or fossil fuels. We have companies that make use of this, and when they make use of this through combustion, you have sulfur returning back into the atmosphere in form of sulfide. You can see here smelting, that is when they burn, the smelting and burning of fossil fuels. So another one we're going to look at here is carbon cycle. Carbon cycle, this is the movement of carbon. The movement of carbon and its compounds within the environment in the biosphere, that is the atmosphere, the oceans and the geosphere, that is, the lithosphere. Now carbon dioxide is present in the atmosphere naturally. This carbon dioxide can be absorbed by green plants for the process of photosynthesis. When these plants decay, when they die, they decay and the carbon go back into the soil. And when the carbon go back into the soil, it can change into fossil or fossil fuels, or it can also go back straight into the atmosphere. Then sometimes it could also be, you could also have a situation where green plants, they will give off carbon dioxide during the process of respiration. You have carbon dioxide going back into the atmosphere in that way. Then you also have a situation where animals also respire and carbon dioxide the carbon dioxide goes back into the atmosphere. Then here, if you have, dead organisms, when they decay, when they die, and their waste products, they decay, and you have fossils and fossil fuel being formed, and this will also be taken up by some factories, and through when they use it up, when they use for this fossil fuel up, then you will see carbon dioxide being returned back into the environment, into the atmosphere. Then you have the next material that we are considering here is phosphorus cycle. That is the movement of phosphorus in the atmosphere. Phosphorus moves in the atmosphere, through, various movements in nature. Most times you can find it in rocks, they can be found in rocks through, or as sediments at the base of at the basis of some of our water bodies. So, or even in the soil. So if they are present in the soil, plants will absorb this sulfur, and when plants absorb the sulfur in form of sulfites, in form of phosphate, animals feed on these plants, the sulfur will move into the animals, and when animals pass their waste products or they die, decay will take place by the decomposers, and you have the sulfur returning back into the soil. And as sulfur return back into the soil, they pick it up again. Then you can also have, sulfur getting into the soil through the weathering of rocks. I said the other time that sulfur are present most as surface, mostly in the rocks, and also as sediment. So on and on like that. That is the cycle through which sulfur moves in the atmosphere or in the biosphere, that is in the environment generally, within the organisms and within the environment. Then the next one we're going to look at is water cycle. This is the process through which water moves all around within the environment. Now, we have bodies of water all around us. That is, you have rivers, streams, oceans, and the like. So, when sun shines on the surface of the earth, there is evaporation. Evaporation takes place on the surface of these waters. That is, the conversion of the water into from the liquid form into gaseous form, which we refer to as water vapor. So this continues, and as it continues, it moves up into the atmosphere, into the heavens, where you have condensation takes place. That is, it continues to store there until after a very long time. When you now have much of it there, it falls back as rain. Then we say that yes, it's precipitate. That is, you have it coming back to the earth surface. Now, when it comes back, plants we absorb some from the soil for the purpose of their growth. Then some will also run off back into the waters, that is, into the bodies of water. Then plants can also respire. That is, when they respire, they give off a carbon, and they give off water. Also, even when animals respire too, they give off water in form of water vapor. This goes into the atmosphere and condenses there. And when it condenses there, after some time, it comes back and precipitates, falls back into the environment as water. And so you have the cycle going on and on like that. And that is how you have this water. I mean, that's how you have water and these materials present in the environment and available for the survival of a living organism. So in conclusion, we can say that organisms survive in an environment through interaction with organisms and interactions with material components in the environment. They interact with organisms, they feed on organisms to get energy. They interact with materials in the environment to get material components that are important for their survival.